Well, good afternoon. I'm Dr. Pat, and welcome to today's B.E.S.T webinar. I'm excited that you are able to join me today. I promise you that you're going to get something that is really going to bless you. You know, we all have been struggling with the fact that we are in the midst of a pandemic, and many of us are sheltered stay. We're staying in our homes, and I thought that during this time I would share some information that could be useful to helping you be your best. And when there's time to get back into full gear, you would have picked up some additional information that would be useful to you. And so today's broadcast is really focusing on your front row and making sure that you understand how really important your front row is. Well, many of you, it may be your first time with me. And so I want you to first get adjusted to our platform. And you'll see that you can toggle between the two images. Right now, the slide should be the image that you're seeing. But if you want to toggle to the presenter, you can click on me and I will become full screen. And then you can go back to the PowerPoint and back and forth, however you choose to do it. Also, I want you to look up at the top of your screen and there's a place for you to chat. And I would love for you to chat during the webinar. So if you've been on the webinar before, or if it's your first time, I've got two different instructions. So if it's your first time on the webinar, I'd love for you to chat first time or something that'll indicate it's your first time. If you've been here before, I want you to welcome in some way our first timers. So how about chatting away? Oh, I see Helen is here. She's been around before. If it's your first time. Oh, okay, first time. Oh, I've got two first timers. Yay. Awesome. Oh, more first times. All right, awesome. Oh, there's my girl. Hi, Kathy. Yay. Okay, well, good. So you got the gist of it. Also, if you've got questions, there's a place to, let me know your questions. And my best buddy, who's my husband, Clayton, is here helping me out. And he'll keep an eye on questions and alert me. And I will try to answer those as we're going through the broadcast. But I might end up pausing and looking at them at different parts throughout the broadcast. And then, of course, if I'm not able to answer all of the questions, I will make sure that I do and send you some information after the broadcast. Now, the good news is there will be a webinar replay. So you will get a copy of a digital version of the broadcast afterwards, and you can go back and listen again. I hope you have some paper and pad or pencil, or even if you're using your iPad or your phone, get ready, because I really want you to take some notes so that you can really reflect back on them and use them in the future. A little bit about me for those of you it's your first time and you may not know me. I am very passionate about results, and my company is the Outcomes Management Group. And we've been blessed to be around 25 years, and we've been in over 150 organizations all around the United States and South Africa. And we've had the opportunity to touch over 50,000 individuals. So I'm bringing a lot of experience and expertise to this conversation. And the conversation that I am really focused on these days is really all about how do I help others live their best life, and a life that's achieving extraordinary results fast. Since I love outcomes, let's jump into the outcomes that I plan for today. When you leave this webinar, I want you to be very clear about why your front row is essential. I also want you to have clarity around the characteristics that you should know about the people that are in your front row. You want them to have certain characteristics. I want you to be focused on who is on your front row. And I want you to make sure after this broadcast, if you don't have all the people that you need to be on your front row, that you're going to get busy to make sure you get them on your front row. And if you discover you have some people on your front row that really shouldn't be there, I want you to think about how you're going to move them off your front row. And I also want you to walk away knowing how to fill your front row and how to engage your front row. So we've got a lot to cover, and so let's jump right in. I want you to think today about your life as a production. And if you think that way, then it's all about you. And it's about you writing the story. You are directing the story. You are starring in the story. You are producing the story. And of course, the life story that I think you're interested in because you're here is that you want your best life. That's the story that you're trying to, really develop. Now, you'll see that we have different episodes in our life, right? At some point, you may have had an action episode. Another time, you might have had a romance episode. You might have had a mystery, that you're trying to solve, something you had to solve. But right now, we're all in a similar episode. We're writing a story about survival. That's the episode that we're all faced with because never before has the entire globe been brought to a halt in the manner that it has, and it's impacting everything and everybody in so many different ways. So we're in this episode, and we really want to make sure that this episode does not impact us from living our best life. Now, I keep talking about this best life, and for those of you who it's your first time, I do want to level set you because oftentimes, we see everybody on Facebook or Instagram, chatting that they want to live their best life. But here's what it means for people that are in my best life community. It means that you're passionate about your life's assignment. Every day, you are making the best use of your time. And when you go somewhere, you are noticed because your light is shining. You're bringing light everywhere you go. And you're focused, not on yourself, but you are focused on meeting the needs and expectations of others. And you want to do that in an excellent manner. You are living a life that is purposeful. It's balanced, it's abundant, and it blesses others. And when you are no longer here, you have left an indelible footprint on this earth. So that's living your best life. And BEST is an acronym, and I am going to reflect back on those particular elements shortly as well. Now, this morning, I was doing my morning meditation, and I ran across a very interesting scripture today. And here's what I was reading today. The name of the Lord Jesus Christ will be honored because of the way you live, and you will be honored along with him. This is all made possible because of the grace of our God and Lord Jesus Christ. Well, I got really excited because that word is saying that when you live your best life, you're honoring God, and you too are going to be honored. And that has been the bottom line for me regarding this best life community. So it's in the word, and it really reaffirms that we really want to look at how we live our life so that we're living it in a way that will truly bring honor and glory to Him and thereby honor to ourselves. So, right away, this brings time into focus because what we know for sure is that we have a finite period of time. And we really don't know how much time we each have. But what we do know is that because there is, in the course of a day, 86,400 seconds, that we really need to make sure that we're making each moment count. And so, if we're really wanting to live our best life, we've got to be really focused on time and valuing our time. I want you to think about this one. Life moves at the speed of relationships. Let that sink in for a moment. There's some things that are really interesting about that thought for me is that when we want to move as fast as we can because we don't really know how much time we have. And so with our life, one thing that we can be certain of is that relationships has some kind of impact on our speed, how fast we can move in life. And my research has shown that relationships have two critical impacts. They influence us in two ways. Who's around us influences what results we get, and who's around us influences how fast we move or how slow we move. So we want to make sure that we're paying attention to the people that are around us, because regardless to whether we're paying attention to them or not, they are influencing what's happening with us. So they're influencing our best life. And that takes us to the focus of today and looking at your front row. Your front row is those people that are up close and personal. You know, they spend a lot of time with you. You know, they really get to see what's going on in your life. You're talking with them fairly regularly, and you know, they're coming into your space and you're going into their space. And what happens sometimes is that we have this front row that we didn't pick. You know, people just sort of landed in our front row. And what I want you to think about today is that you want to have reserved seats in your front row. You don't want people, you see in the movie theater, there are all those seats there. And so in our life, we got lots of people that are in our lives, just like those seats, you know, 10, 20, 50, 100 people that we've met in all different places that we've been, from college, high school, childhood, you know, to work and so on. So all these people are here in our life. But who comes close up front, we want to reserve. We want those seats to be reserved. And we want the people that sit in those seats to really be people who really have a vested interest. Not that they just sort of like you, but you want someone who really, really is vested in you. They want you to live your best life. And that's why they're sitting up close in your reserved seats. Now, I'd love for you to just chat in right now. Did you pick people to be in your front row, or have people just landed in your front row? So can you just sort of chat in? I picked the people, or they landed, or it's both. I'd love to see how people have, how you're managing this front row in your life. Okay, so some people have picked both. A little bit of both. Okay. All right. So I think we've got a mixture going on that some people we have landed, and then some people we selected. And today we're going to make sure that we select, that we're going to totally select. So here are the 8 characteristics of the people that are in your front row. So for the people that, you say, I already have people in my front row, or I picked them in my front row, I want you to now start thinking about them against each of these characteristics. First of all, the person that's sitting there in your front row, I want you to think about, do they really understand what your purpose is? Is the person that's in your front row, do they really understand your life purpose? So if you think that a person that's in your front row, those of you who have them and they understand your purpose, just hit yes, type in yes for me, or no. Does the person really understand that if someone talked to them, they really knew what your life is about, what you're trying to accomplish, why you're here? Okay. Okay, so let's look at positive. What kind of spirit does that person have? Do we have people that are positive around us? Positive. Now, this one is really important, because positive, we want to have, in order to be successful, to do our best, we have to have a positive mindset. And so what we know is that if we're around people that are negative, we tend to pick negative. We'll be negative too. But if we're around people who are positive, then we're going to be positive. So the people in our front row, we really need for them to bring positivity so that we can stay positive and not go negative. So think about positive. What about sharing your core values? So whatever your core values are, do you have people that are in your front row that are all sharing those values? So, for example, one of my core values is excellence. And I can't have anyone in my front row that does not share that value, because if they're in the mediocrity, then that means when I'm trying to do something well, they're going to say, oh, that's okay. You don't really have to do that. It's all right. We can cut that corner. It's really not going to be that important. Nobody will really notice it. It's okay. So whatever your core values are, those people that are sitting on your front row, their core values need to match yours. They need to be easy to be around. If they're in your front row, oh my gosh, we don't need to be struggling with the people in our front row. The front row should be easy. One of my friends, Kathy, is on. She and I can talk. Our husbands, in fact, can't stand it. We can talk all day, all night. Easy to be around. And that's what we want. We want somebody easy to be around. The next one is important, available and accessible. We don't need somebody in our front row. And if we need them, we can't find them. They're not accessible. Now, that doesn't mean that they're always there. It just means that if I'm in a pinch, I can count on my front row to make sure that they are there for me. So that's what we're talking about. Anybody on the front row that if you know that if the ship goes down, you're going to have a trouble with them being around, then they're probably not going to be good people to stay in that front row. What about speaking the truth? We want somebody on our front row. They love us, but they do not have a problem in telling us when we are not on point. They're not going to say, if I say, oh, girl, how do I look today? Oh, girl, you look good. Knowing all along that, oh, Pat's not looking so well today. She needs to do something with that hair or her makeup or whatever. You need someone that's going to tell it like it is. They're not going to let you go out with your slip hanging and not tell you. So someone is going to speak the truth. They have to speak the truth if they're on your front row, because you're counting on that front row to help you to be your best. And if they're not telling you the truth, you cannot be your best. We also want someone on the front row that we respect and they respect us. So there has to be mutual respect. It can't be one way. It has to be a two-way. So we both have to respect each other. And this last one is just essential. If you can't trust the person, then they can't be on your front row. So it has to be someone that you can trust, because if it goes down and if the person tells me to jump, I got to feel confident that if I'm jumping, it's going to be okay. So those are the 8 characteristics of the people that they must possess if they're sitting on your front row. Now, here's the thing. At the end of the day, it's really up to you. You really want to choose your front row. And therefore, if we go through to rest of this session, if you find that someone's there, I want you to recognize that it's now time to let go, because they can't be in your front row and you really live your best life. Now, you've got to do a little homework in order to also make sure that you have the right people there. Here's some of the things that you really want to have clarity about, because it's going to help you in making sure that I really do have, the right people in my front row. I mean, if I don't know what my purpose is, then the person on my front row is not going to be able to know my purpose. So when I get clarity about my purpose, I can now make sure that people in my front row understand that and they can support that. So we want to make sure that we get clarity so that the people that are on our front row can support us in that purpose. Secondly, we want to also make sure that we've decided, who do we want to make sure that we're blessing? Because that's also going to be important to the people in the front row, so that they can help you make sure that you are looking out for those people, or they're helping you find those people that you're wanting to bless. So getting clarity about that so that you can share that with your front row. The other thing that's going to be important is, when I'm done with all this work that I'm doing, what is it that I want people to remember or be able to see that this was the footprint that I left, so that, again, the people that are supporting me are helping me to be able to make that happen. It's important to know how fast you're going or how slow you're going towards whatever it is, because, again, that's going to influence selection of who's on the front row. And of course, if you're living your best life, then you really got to focus on being your best. And that will also influence who's on your front row. So that's a good segue for me to just give you a little quick reminder about BEST, because when we're talking about this best life, then we want to make sure that we're all remembering that there are 4 big key areas that we're staying focused on that is going to help us to get those extraordinary results. That we have to focus on our image, because when we focus on our image, that's what facilitates our ability to attract. And we can attract other people, customer, clients, members, friends, that comes from our image. Excellence is all about standards, and we have standards, we're able to grow. When we focus on others, meeting their needs and expectations, as well as meeting our own, that is where we get energy, and it takes energy to get things done. And then, of course, the last one, T, is about being timely. And when we get very disciplined about managing our time, that's where we're able to seize opportunities. So those are things that we have to work on, get clarity on, see where we need some help in, so that, again, we can make sure that our front row is able to support us. Well, I hope you're ready now to see the people that you need to have on your front row. Are you ready? Type in ready if you're ready for me to let you know. Here are the types of people that you need to have on your front row. Okay, I think some people are ready. Well, let's look at the first type. And I want you to think about now, I'm sort of bringing to your attention the kinds of functions of the people that you need to have on your front row. And they all play a role that's going to lead to you being your best. Now you have to have a cheerleader on your front row. I mean, that's a must, is a cheerleader. And the cheerleader is, when you think about games, football games, basketball games, they got the cheerleaders because you need them to cheer you on, to make sure that you're keeping focused on winning and they're getting you pumped up. So the cheerleader is somebody that you should be around, and they just make you smile just being around them. They just lift you up right away, just being around them. The cheerleader is going to give you praise regardless of the accomplishment. So, if you win the game by 1 point or 10 points, the cheerleader is like, girl, you won. Girl, you did it. I mean, they are helping you to feel good about what you have done. They're not saying, well, you did okay, but you could have done, the cheerleader is really saying, yay, yay, yay. Good job. Good job. Regardless, that's good, girl. Keep at it. Yeah, that's the cheerleader. And the cheerleader is also, it's when they cheer, they're cheering from your perspective, because remember, they're vested in you. And so they're not trying to bring forth things that is coming from their perspective. So for people who know me and they're in my front row, if they were going to really get me excited about something, they know I like chocolate. So they would bring forth something in chocolate. They wouldn't be trying to give me a carrot cake. They would know that wouldn't really cheer me up. So we want cheerleaders who are focused on us, and they're bringing forth the things that they know that are going to cheer us up. So again, think about your cheerleader and make sure you've got the right cheerleader, because if that cheerleader is bringing you things that is from their perspective about what they think, they're really not focused on you. They're still thinking about themselves and not thinking about you. And the other piece of the cheerleader is that this is the person that, it's always giving you some kind words. They know how to dust you off when you're down and out, and they know how to send you back into the game. That even though you might have been thinking, oh my gosh, I really just wish and I didn't do it. They're like, oh, Pat, you can. Yep, you can. Get back in. You're good. It'll be fine. Another day, go for it. So that's the cheerleader. How many of you have some cheerleaders on your front row? Okay, good. Okay, so that's what you want. You really want to make sure you got cheerleaders. Okay. If you don't have a cheerleader, then you want to make sure that you get a cheerleader. Okay, here's the second person, the second function. And sometimes people can carry different multiple functions for you, but an encourager. The cheerleader is keeping you pumped up, making you stay in a good state. The encourager is going to help you to persevere. This is the person that's going to be constantly helping you to keep going. They're going to, we're going to move forward. That's the encourager. And the encourager inspires you that, that you're going to keep going even when you're feeling frustrated. They are there to just really know how to push you forward, get you out of the doldrums and get you into action. This person loves you unconditionally. It doesn't matter what their circumstance, what the situation, they are all about you, and you know that, so that when they are coming to you and ministering to you, it is from their heart and their love for you. That's the encourager. The encourager is also the person that is going to empower you. They're going to empower you to take risks, but they're calculated risks. So they're not going to just say, go for it, but they're going to, they're the people that are going to force you to step out of the box a little bit, but it's going to be, with your best interest at heart. They're going to help you to make sure that, that you can, that you can really weather the storm. So they're encouraging you. And they're there to help you to survive those disappointments, and we all have in our life, we have disappointments. There are things that we thought were going to happen that didn't happen, or, what we thought was going to be the way it worked out wasn't the way it worked out. And so we need that person that knows how to help us navigate those disappointments. Um, this particular position is really somewhat empty for me right now. This seat in my own row, I'm still trying to really fill that seat really well. My mom was my encourager. And when she was no longer there, it's been really hard for me to find somebody that could encourage me as well as she did. Now, it doesn't mean I don't have encouragers, but she was a powerful encourager. And remember, the speed that we move at, we move based upon these people that are around us. And so I moved much faster, I found. But once that was taken away, and of course, I learned that I have to encourage myself. I got so much encouragement that I hadn't even developed the good encouragement skill myself. So it's probably, another benefit there was that I had to learn myself and not lean on that front row to do all of the encouraging. And I didn't even realize how much that encouragement was helping me until it was withdrawn and it was no longer there. So encouragement is what really keeps us pushing forward regardless to what's going on. So how many of you have some real good encouragers on your front row that they really know how to encourage you? Okay, good. I would love, and also some of you that you do share something about what it is that makes that person such a good encourager, that's making you feel that encouragement is so powerful, because this is what pushes you through, which really pushes you through. Anybody want to share one example of somebody that, something that they did that was really encouraging, that shows us the strength of this position, because this is the one that really pushes us forward. Okay, so somebody who has shared their experience and resilience with you. Okay, that's good. And I'm going to stick a pin in that, because we're going to come back to that point about somebody who has been somewhere and they can bring that to you. So I want to make sure I don't forget that. So Clayton's going to keep me to remember that. Okay. Here's the next one. We have to have a challenger on our front row. We have to have somebody on that front row that really, when I come out and say, hey, I'm all excited about doing this webinar on Saturday, they're not like just going like, oh yeah, that's great, Pat, do it. Got to have somebody that's on that front row that's going to say, okay, so you're going to do that on Saturday. So what's good about doing that on Saturday, and what's not so good about doing that on Saturday? I'm going to do it at 2:00. Well, why are you going to do it at 2:00? Why don't you do it at another time? You need the challenger, because it forces you to really think through things. And if you don't have that, then, if everybody around you is just going, yes, 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 do, go, 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 then you're going to end up in some places that you probably shouldn't. So you got to have that challenger in that front row. This has to be somebody that's not afraid to ask you those tough questions or probe, really get in there. And that's why the front row has to have trust, because if we don't trust and have mutual respect, guess what? We are not, we're not going to like for someone to come in there and go, well, why are you doing that? And really pushing you. So you got to really have those characteristics in order for this person to be able to function well as a challenger. The challenger is also important, because the challenger is going to force you to the other side. There's always the other side. And so the challenger is going to make you think about the other side. Like, yep, that's really good. Yep, Pat, that sounds really great. Now, have you ever really thought about the fact that you might really not be able to make what you think you're going to do? A nice, loving manner, but they flip it to the other side so that it forces you to think, doesn't mean that you're not going to do something, but you just need somebody that is going to make sure that you've given whatever it is that you're thinking about, that you're doing, your full thinking and best thinking around it. Oh, I hear somebody said their husband is their challenger. Oh, I love it. Yes. We got another friend that challenges. She gets on your nerves, right? Yeah, sometimes that happens, right? Because they're pushing you and you don't want to be pushed, but it's so important. And you can tolerate the pushing because as Celeste, that Celeste is saying, because she has her best interest at heart. Yes, and that allows us. Oh, some sorority sisters, yeah, can do that because they're your sisters and they know you, and yeah, they can push you. Yes. And that challenger also helps you to try new things. They push you to step outside your comfort zone. And so that challenger is really, really important and necessary to be right there on your front row. Well, the next type function on the front row is you got to have an accountability partner. Now, those of you who have been on the webinar before or heard me talk about this before, you know absolutely that Clayton, my husband, is my accountability partner. He is the absolute best at holding me accountable. Now, what does that mean? It means that this person is a person, and that's why they have to be in your front row, because they've got to really know what you're trying to do, and they can actually watch you and see whether you're doing what it is that you should be doing or saying you're doing in relationship to that purpose that you have. So this can't be a sometime person. This has got to be a person that is absolutely with you right in. They're right in there. They know exactly what's going on. I've shared, many different stories with how, Clayton, holds me accountable. Whenever I announce that I'm getting ready to do something, then his accountability clock ticks right on, and he immediately starts watching to observe whether the behavior is lining up with what I'm saying. And I've told you before the story about me eating chocolate ice cream at night. And I still have sort of back at that, now that we got the staycation. And the other night I was like, oh, I sure would like some chocolate ice cream. And, it was late. And he looked at me like, I don't think so. No matter how I sort of smiled about it and laughed, it was like, no, I don't think so. But that's what you got to have. Somebody that can point out. And it's sort of like the challenger. You don't like it, but they love you. And because they love you, because remember, that's another characteristic. They're vested in you, of this person in your front row, then you're going to, swallow it and, try to make sure that you bring that behavior back in alignment. They don't allow you to make excuses. It's easy to give all the reasons why something didn't happen. But this accountability partner is not going to let you stay focused on, well, I didn't understand the platform. They're going to be, okay, you didn't understand the platform. What are you doing to understand the platform? We're not going to spend 10, 20 minutes on you telling me about what you didn't understand, but we're going to focus on what do you need to do to understand. So that accountability partner doesn't let excuses get in the conversation or get in the way. They're going to keep you focused on making sure that you actually are acting, actually doing what you say. If you don't have an accountability partner, then you're in trouble, because this is a must in order to make sure that you're doing and accomplishing that what you say you want to. Because let's face it, we all can't look objectively all the time at our behaviors. We're not processing all the time what we say and how we're doing it, and whether that's really lining up with the goal we have. So we need somebody else who is monitoring that, words that we're using and how we're acting, and giving us feedback so that we can catch it, sooner rather than later. this accountability partner, I mentioned already that they're keeping you focused on what you need to do. And then you have regular check-ins with your accountability partner, so that they know that we're going to check in to make sure that I'm going as fast as I can towards the goal. I'm doing the things that I need to in order to get there and not slowing down. Accountability partners. Who's got accountability partners? Accountability. Okay. All right. All right, good. Awesome. If you don't, you want to make sure that you do. If you have one, I want you to really make sure that that accountability partner is put to full use. We'll talk about that, in a minute. We cannot be on this front row without also making sure that our spirit is being nurtured. And so we have to have somebody on that front row who is our spiritual partner. And that means that there's somebody there that shares our belief system, is able to bring, an appropriate on-time word in a situation that we are in. So we've got to have that as well, that person, on our front row up close. We've got to have on our front row, that person is the person who's going to pray on our behalf, that we can count on the fact that, in their prayer, they're interceding on our behalf, and that they're also focusing on helping us to grow and develop spiritually. So this is a must-have on that front row, so that, again, we are nourishing, our mind, our body, and our spirit. So we've got to have a good spirit partner on our front row. Does anybody have a really good spirit partner that you can count on to really make sure they're nourishing your spirit? Okay, good. Okay. All right, so good. So we want to definitely make sure that we have that person or persons on our front row, because if we don't, we're going to get out of balance. And if we're really going to be doing the work and we're on purpose, the work that God wants us to do, then we've got to have spirit represented right there, up close on that front row. Now, the one front row position that is really, really essential. They all are. But this one sort of helps us with speed as it relates to purpose. Okay, this is what this particular seat does. So whatever our purpose is, whatever it is that we are supposed to be about doing, we need a mentor or a coach, somebody that can give us guidance as it relates to the purpose, to what it is that we're supposed to be doing. And when we have that, that is what allows us to go faster, because it means that we are not going to bump around and spend a lot of time doing some things that we didn't need to do because we didn't know any better about that. So we need that mentor or that coach. That has to be a person who is consistently, again, spending time with you and available to you as it relates to your purpose. So that's why, again, you've got to know your purpose so that you can make sure that you cover this seat, that you've got a mentor in your seat up close in front, and you have a coach that's in that seat. Also, this mentor is going to give you constructive feedback. So when you're not quite doing the things that you need to do, this is the person that is going to help you to figure out how you need to do things. this person is also able to connect you with the right networks and resources. This one is really, really critical. And so I'd love to see those of you who have right now on your front row right now, a mentor or a coach that's sitting on your front row that's tied to your purpose, This one has been hard for me to find a mentor that's really been where I want to go now with my online work. And I'm just so happy to say that, that since I've been on staycation, I found my mentor, and I am really, really, really excited about finding him. He is a mentor for kingdom entrepreneurs. So it's somebody who shares a core value and yet is also focused on the purpose of being an entrepreneur and helping to build the kingdom. And so he has been there, done that, and therefore he's able to now start helping me to see how to do things in a different light and in a different way. So I'm so excited because I think I'm going to speed up now because I finally have somebody that I can actually really talk to, see, and follow along, and that they're doing exactly what I'm trying to do. They're not talking about it. It's not, and it's interesting because just yesterday, there was this conversation where someone was talking about in the group session, that there's a difference between somebody who's teaching you, somebody who knows they've studied and they know something, as opposed to the person who's actually experienced it. They've been there and they've done that. So they have had a breakthrough from their experience. And because they've had that breakthrough from their experience, they're better able to really help you move along faster. And so I'm just really excited about that because it's hard sometimes to find someone, and you want to really find a good mentor, a good person that truly can really, they've been there, done that in a way that they can show you, guide you, and help you navigate through what it is that you're currently going through as it relates to your purpose. So again, that changes, that mentor changes over time. I've had great mentors. I look back and I am very clear. I was most successful easily in places where I had good mentors right there on my front row, right there on the front row, not people that I saw to talk to occasionally and could call them up and have a little conversation about something, but who was right there by my side, up close and personal, and really helping me with my purpose. I have one that was in my former work days for the American Speech and Hearing Association, and she and I are still close friends. She was absolutely, without a doubt, made me be as successful as fast as I was in that whole area because of how she mentored me. I know that Kathy is on the line, and she's done some research on looking at mentoring for her doctoral work and found how important that relationship is. So again, I would say look at that position, and we want them to be up close, right in that front row, not on the second row, but bring them up to the front row. Okay, that's a lot. So that tells us these are, we know now the characteristics of the people that should be on the front row. We know the positions that we need to make sure we fill on the front row and what it is that we want them to do, if they're on our front row. So let's really sort of talk about now establishing this front row. And I think somebody sent in a question that's going to relate to this. So here we have our front row. Right now, you guys have your front row. I want you to look at your front row carefully, and I want you to look at the positions that we need to have, and I want you to see, do I have, who's sitting in those positions? I want you to go back and look at those characteristics, and I want you to look at Pat, and I want you to say, yep, she knows my purpose. Yep, Pat is, trustworthy. Yes, 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 or whatever. But I really don't want you to just sort of assume in the top of your head that, oh, yeah, this person meets all of that. I want you to really be clear, where is this person, what position, and are they meeting all of the characteristics? Now, what you might find out is that you want to relocate some people on your front row. And so maybe, here was, Pat, and I thought of her as my cheerleader, but given where I am right now, maybe Pat should be my encourager instead of my cheerleader right now, because maybe, Clayton could move into that role. So you can relocate your players in your front row. What about the fact that you discover that, look, this person is on my front row now, and I really need to move them back. We don't have to move them out of our life. We just need to move them out of the front row. And so that means that we're not going to be chit-chatting and filling them in on everything now that relates to my life, because we can't have them that close anymore because of the fact that they can't contribute. And I only want people that are close, knowing everything about me. And it can only be people that are going to be able to fill those positions. So you're not letting them out your life. You're just not going to be picking up the phone and calling them now like you might have done before. Or if they're calling you and wanting to talk about, how's things going with your business, then you can talk about your business. You're just not going to talk about your business. You know what I mean? You're not going to get into the level of detail that you might have been doing before, because in that level of detail, all of a sudden, well, girl, I don't know why you're doing that, and I would think you should be doing this. And so not anymore. So we want to move people back and relocate, some people so that we make sure that we've got the right people in our front row. And we talked about looking at the existing relationships. Now, here's another one. Look at those seats in our lives. Oh my gosh, there's other people, right? And so we want to spend time developing relationships, because we might just find out that there's somebody else that really deserves to be in the front row, because they can really contribute in a different way. Because now remember, we have all these different episodes that are going on. And depending upon the episode, I might have a different front row. So if I'm dealing with, if I'm doing my love episode, then I'm going to make sure that in that episode, like when I was trying to find my husband, then, who was sitting in that front row looked differently, because that was what was really important to me right then. And so I needed people up in that front row who's going to help contribute to that. Right now, I'm really very focused on how do I make sure that I move this business forward, and I want people in my front row who's going to support me in helping me to achieve that purpose. So that's the episode I'm writing right now. So we have different episodes, and so that's going to determine, who is sitting in the front row, and so people can move around. It doesn't mean that we don't talk to people, but we're talking and we're managing people based upon and engaging them around us, depending upon, how they fit in those categories. Now, if we can't trust somebody, they don't deserve to be on our front row, no matter what episode it is. Okay. So remember that. So go back and look at those characteristics. If there's no mutual respect, you can't be on my front row at all. So we've got to really look at those characteristics, and really, if you don't meet those characteristics, sorry, just can't be on the front row. So what about engaging your front row? This is our last piece here about the front row. So we got these people in our front row. And so now how do we engage the front row? Well, we really want to make sure that people know, hey, I'm counting on you to, help cheer me on. I'm counting on you to encourage me. We want people to know what role we're looking for and that they're willing to fulfill that role. Because if they're not, then we don't want someone to be in a role that they don't want to be in and they don't really have time for that role. So you can still, again, they can still be your friend. You still got life going on, but I got to have somebody in my front row who can fulfill this particular function. So we want to engage with our front row, make sure everybody's, happy to fill their role. And then we want to get some agreements about things. I'll tell you, like with my husband, with accountability, because it's real hard, it's hard on him because if he tells me something and I sort of go like, oh, well, I don't really want to do that. Then he sort of, thinks, well, I told you that and you didn't really want to listen. And so then it makes him less likely to want to tell me again. So I have to sort of say, hey, Clayton, I might give you a little pushback, but even though I'm going to give you pushback on this, I need for you to still, hold me accountable so that we have that agreement up front so that he won't, really retrieve himself from sharing because, I'm going to be like, oh, I don't want to hear that. The other thing, he and I just established some agreement now. I've got this new thing that I'm going to be doing based upon what I learned about marketing. And so I said, okay, so here's the deal. Every day, here's what I need for you to make sure you're asking me about. Pat, are you advertising? Pat, are you marketing? Pat, are you selling? So, so these are the things that I need you to make sure you ask me about every day. So we want to get some agreements about things with the people that are on our front row. Maybe with your spirit partner, maybe there's agreement that we're going to pray once a week. Or maybe with your spirit partner, we're going to share a word with each other. Or we are going to agree that I'm going to share a podcast with you and you're going to share something with me. We want to get some agreements around how we're going to function together. And if you need something specific, just like I told you just now, because, how does the accountability partner know, or even your spirit partner, if there's something going on and you really need them to intercede in prayer for you if you don't tell them? So you want to be specific about those things. And then, of course, you want to always show gratitude to your front row because you want them to know that you appreciate them and you value them and that they're really making a difference in your life and that they know that. That you really do appreciate what they're doing for you. So those are ways in which you can make sure that you engage your front row so that your front row is clear, working well, and they know you love them and appreciate what they're doing. So if there's any other questions that you have, feel free to type those in, and my husband's going to monitor and also show the 8 questions. Okay, so which questions now were you wanting? Somebody wanted to see the 8 questions. Can you show the 8 questions? Back to the, okay, I got it. Hold on, let me go back to that slide. Let's see. And you'll get, these are the 8. So the person that wanted to know that these are the 8 that you want to really make sure that you focus on. Okay, whether they know the purpose, whether they're positive, do they share your core values, are they easy to be around, available and accessible, speak the truth, mutual respect and trust. Yep, those are the 8. They gotta have those. That's a must. That's a foundation to being on the front row because any one of those will create problems. Any one of those. Okay. I think we were at just about at the my community. I just invite you to join the Best Life community, because this is the place where I'm trying to bring people together that are really interested in living their best life. And it's where I'm sharing information and tools, etc. And, now that we can stay at home, I'd like to also suggest that you go out on Amazon and you can get my two books, Be Your Best or Best Fast Stories if you don't have them. And you can sort of read those, and those sort of reinforce some of my principles that I have been talking about and continue to talk about. And last, I would like to say that, I told you I'm going to be doing this. I've got one, I'm going to do one more. Last week I did self-care, how to take care of yourself. And next week, since we're all about, Vision 2020, I want to talk about 5 must-dos if you want to make your vision happen in this new year. And I'm going to have some things that now relate to now that we're going to be doing life in a new way, potentially after the pandemic, to also incorporate that into our 5 must-dos. So that's going to be next Saturday at 2:00. And again, I just want to thank you guys also for being here. And just remember that it's up to you to make sure that you have the right people on your front row. And I would appreciate it if you would also share the word with your friends. And when you get the replay, I would love it if you would get people, if you would pass it on to someone so that they too can, join in. And let me also tell you, you should be getting not only the replay, but the next day, you're going to get a little summary sheet that you can take notes on that captures the essence of this. And then you're also going to get something else from me about the front row. So it doesn't just end today. And again, thank you. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Oh, somebody's going to share it. Great. I appreciate that. Sharing it with people in Baton Rouge. I appreciate that, Celeste.